A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends.
Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock on Sunday, the 21st of September. That's quick, isn't it? God knows where it's going. This is The Weekend on GB News. Now, your main story. The Prime Minister is set to recognise Palestine as a state. The announcement is expected later today after the government made a promise to make the move unless Israel met with certain conditions. However, critics have hit out the decision, including Nigel Farage, who believes the Palestinian state can't be separated from Hamas. Not good news for Fergie either. Yeah, royal revelations. The Duchess of York is facing fresh scrutiny after leaked emails revealed she privately described Jeffrey Epstein as her steadfast, generous and supreme friend. Oops. And meanwhile, church leaders say they are deeply concerned about the use of the Christian faith and symbols at Unite the Kingdom rally last week, remember, saying corrupting of the Christian faith to exclude others is unacceptable. What do you make of that one, though? And thousands will gather in Arizona today for Charlie Kirk's memorial, with President Trump, Vice President Vance and top US officials set to be in attendance. And really sad to say that we've lost broadcasting legend John Stapleton today. He died peacefully in hospital at the age of 79. We'll be paying tribute to him throughout the show. I'm Dawn Neeson and this is The Weekend. Hello, so thank you for your company on this Sunday afternoon. Always appreciate it. So much to talk about, and I really want you to get involved as well. Recognising a Palestinian state is a moral duty. The hostages' families might have something to say about that one. And also the church getting their knickers in a twist about crosses being carried at the Unite the Kingdom rally last week. I know you'll want to have a say about that one. Very easy to get involved in the conversation at gbnews.com/your say. And I promise I will read as many out as I possibly can because I love talking to you. It's a highlight in my day. But before we get into all of that stuff, let's get those latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Dawn, thank you, and good afternoon to you. Just after midday, after 1 o'clock, in fact. And the top story this lunchtime, Sir Keir Starmer is set to announce Britain will recognise a Palestinian state in a statement later this afternoon in what will be a dramatic shift to UK foreign policy. The Prime Minister says the move comes after Israel failed to agree a ceasefire or commit to a two-state peace process. Israel has condemned the decision, with Benjamin Netanyahu warning it rewards terror, while families of Hamas hostages say it risks derailing their release. The announcement comes as Israel's latest offensive in Gaza has now forced hundreds of thousands to flee. The United Nations is describing conditions on the ground as cataclysmic. Well, speaking earlier this morning, the Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey said it is a good start towards peace, but there is much more still to be done.
We need to do far more. Particularly, we need to put pressure on President Trump. He's the one person who can stop all this fighting and get the food into the Palestinians and move towards a two-state solution and get the hostages released. It's why I decided not to go to the state banquet when President Trump was here, because I think we need to put pressure on him. Our government needs to put pressure on President Trump to do the right thing and get peace in Israel-Palestine.
Two newspapers have revealed an email said to be from Sarah Ferguson to Jeffrey Epstein, calling him a supreme friend despite his conviction for sex offences. The Sun and Mail on Sunday report it was sent in 2011, just weeks after the Duchess of York publicly distanced herself from him. Her spokesperson says the email came after Epstein threatened to sue her for defamation, insisting she had already condemned him and cut ties. In interviews at the time, the Duchess admitted her involvement with Epstein was, she said, a gigantic error of judgment. British fighter jets have carried out a NATO air defence mission over Poland after a wave of Russian drone incursions into Polish airspace. Two RAF Typhoons took off from Lincolnshire on Friday night, supported by a refuelling aircraft, before returning to the UK early on Saturday. It follows the most serious breach since the Ukraine war began, Poland shooting down 3 of 19 drones in just a single day. The Polish Prime Minister claims Europe is the closest it's come to open conflict since World War II. Russia, though, denies any violations. 10,000 prison officers are to be given stab-proof vests in a major security upgrade backed by £15 million of funding. The Justice Secretary David Lammy made the announcement at Belmarsh Prison, raising the number of vests from just 750 to now 10,000. 5,000 guards in high-security jails will also get individually fitted armour, while 500 tasers will be issued to trained staff. Well, David Lammy says that officers must feel secure if they're to stay in the job.
Many of us were shocked by the outrage of prison officers being attacked in HMP Franklin just a few months ago. It's hugely important that this important work has officers feeling safe as they keep our country safe.
And a journalistic hero, veteran broadcaster John Stapleton, remembered today as he has died at the age of 79 after a career spanning more than half a century. He passed away peacefully at hospital this morning after living with Parkinson's disease. Over 5 decades, he became a familiar face on Watchdog, Newsnight, Panorama and Good Morning Britain. In 2004, he was named RTS Presenter of the Year, praised for his sharp interviewing and calm authority. Well, just weeks ago, in what would be his final television appearance, Stapleton spoke here on GB News about his illness. Here's a moment from that conversation as he reunited on air with his friend and longtime co-host Penny Smith.
I went to the airport the other day. I was tempted to have one, but as I was going through, I've also got false hips. You know, everything's been replaced on me, so for eyes, hips, you know. And when I go through security, beep, 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 every single time. Yeah. This particular time, they said, sorry, sir, we've got to take you to one side and into a private room for a closer examination. I said, what's the problem? He said, we found some evidence of steel around your groin. I said, I'm 79 years old, for God's sake. I should be so lucky. Steel around my groin, you kidding?
Good-humoured as ever. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Dawn.
Thank you very much, Sam. Love John Stapleton. Was lucky enough to interview him and his wife, Lynn, several times. He was one of those genuine people that was even nicer off-screen than he was on it, and that is quite unusual, let me tell you. OK, now your main story. So Keir Starmer is preparing to officially recognise the state of Palestine this afternoon. It's his moral duty, evidently. This comes as a damning survey finds almost 9 out of 10 Brits do not back the Prime Minister's decision to go ahead with Palestinian recognition without conditions. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has accused the government of rewarding terror with the move, a sentiment echoed by President Donald Trump on his state visit last week. Have a listen.
Put the hostages up as bait. They're going to put the hostages in front of any attack. And that's pretty brutal. We haven't heard that one in a long time. So we have to remember that. So I have a disagreement with the Prime Minister on that score. Okay?
Meanwhile, leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey, has welcomed the Prime Minister's decision.
Something that's needed to be done for years. It's part of a peace process to get a two-state solution for Israel and for Palestine. But of course, we need to do far more. Particularly, we need to put pressure on President Trump. He's the one person who can stop all this fighting and get the food into the Palestinians and move towards a two-state solution and get the hostages released. It's why I decided not to go to the state banquet when President Trump was here, because I think we need to put pressure on him. Our government needs to put pressure on President Trump to do the right thing and get peace in Israel-Palestine.
OK, joining me now is GBNews political correspondent Catherine Forster. Catherine, it's a moral duty. We need to do the right thing. Tell us more.
Yes, well, that's what the government is saying. And just to step back to how this has come about, it was a pledge that the government decided to make back in July when they said that the situation in Gaza was becoming intolerable. And they said that unless Israel met certain conditions by the United Nations General Assembly, which is just about to begin, that the UK would recognise a Palestinian state. Now, the conditions that they were asking Israel to meet were to agree a ceasefire and to commit to long-term sustainable peace that includes delivering ultimately a two-state solution, something which has been talked about and wanted by the international community for many, many years, but something that the current Israeli government seems to be having absolutely no truck with at all. It was hoped that it would put pressure on Israel, but it was also, let's face it, motivated by problems that the Prime Minister was having within his own party, because over half of Labour MPs back in July had signed a letter saying that the government should recognise Palestine as a state, and it's something that has been a long-term Labour wish, Labour manifesto commitment. So the thing is now, obviously, Israel hasn't paid any attention to this. It hasn't had any effect. Israel, Netanyahu says it is rewarding Hamas's monstrous terrorism. And of course, that's the accusation, something that the Conservatives have also said, saying, look, it's not going to achieve anything. It's not going to make the slightest bit of difference to what Israel do or do not do. So that is why today the government is also due to announce further sanctions on Hamas. They don't want to upset President Trump. We know that this is a point of disagreement between the government and the United States, because just at Chequers the other day, Donald Trump said so, that they disagree on this. So the sanctions, I think, are an attempt to sort of placate President Trump. Many people, of course, would say that really the only thing that can influence Israel at this point is Donald Trump. But at the moment, he doesn't seem prepared to really get tough on Israel.
Catherine, thank you very much. That's political correspondent Catherine Forster in Bournemouth for us, covering the Live Dem conference, in case you're wondering what she's doing on a beach. Just not random, by the way. OK, joining me now is the co-founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani, to discuss this. Aaron, good to see you. Looking lovely and sunny where you are as well. What do you make of this decision? It's the Prime Minister. It's our moral duty.
Well, I think it's the right decision. I think it's the right thing to do. But I also agree that there's an element of political expediency going on. This is happening at a moment of particularly perilous political moment for Labour, with Reform chasing them on one end, the Green Party and various Gaza independents chasing them on the other, and the Liberal Democrats too. In Wales, you're seeing them poll third. In Scotland, you're seeing them poll third. So I do think this is clearly a move to shore up what they view as the socially progressive, more left-wing element of their electoral base. But at the same time, this is something which Labour have been talking about since Ed Miliband was leader after 2010. It's been a long time coming. And it's really important to say that the overwhelming majority of countries in the international community recognise a state of Palestine. We are joining, quote-unquote, very normal countries, both in the European Union, but right elsewhere across the world as well.
Yeah, Australia, Belgium, Canada, France and Portugal all expected to recognise Palestine this weekend. The big question here, though, Aaron, is will it stop Israel bombing Gaza?
No, it won't. But I think people talk about we have to have a two-state solution. Everybody says it. I think some people say it. They don't really mean it. It's a platitude. But look, a first step towards a two-state solution is recognising two states. Palestine doesn't recognise Israel. However, the PLO has recognised Israel since 1993, and of course the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, is an expression of that. They've recognised Israel since 1993. I think Britain and the likes of Britain and other countries you just mentioned, who over the next several days will recognise Israel, I think it's a really, really critical step. We are going to need the Israelis to recognise the state of Palestine. They don't. We're going to need a Palestine state, which doesn't really exist, to recognise Israel. This is a really critical step to getting there. I don't really see the arguments against it.
OK, Aaron, where's the Palestinian state going to be? I mean, if you take the West Bank on one side and Gaza on the other, there's a bit of a sticking point in the middle of from the river to the sea, which is Israel. Which bit is going to be the Palestinian state?
Well, this is what needs to be negotiated. This is what needs to be negotiated. And this obviously has been part of the wider debate since 1946. Right now, the argument would be that you want two states along the 1967 borders. I think that's a sensible position. I think that's basically going to be the position of, the vast majority of members of the UN General Assembly. That's what I would say. But you are quite right. It's a very, very difficult situation, just geographically, to resolve.
Exactly. And finally, Aaron, just quickly, the hostages. The hostages' families have written to the Prime Minister saying, we don't want this. This is victory to Hamas.
Well, it's really important to add as well, there's a domestic political context going on with Netanyahu right now, which is that the families of hostages who are still being kept, many of them, of course, really important to remember those people, are not happy with Israel's government and its perceived mismanagement of the situation. So they're angry with Starmer, I'm sure. They're also angry with Netanyahu. It's a very, very difficult one. But like I say, there is no way out of this without some kind of Palestinian state. Some people say it should be one state, others two states. And of course, we can discuss the geography of that and where the borders for that state would be. But clearly, you're going to need people who are perceived as fair actors, and I hope Britain could be one of those, to adjudicate between the two parties. And to get there, you're going to need to have, as a necessary precondition, a recognised state of Palestine.
OK, Aaron Bastani, thank you very much. Always good to talk to you. Thank you for your time today. Well, what do you think about this one? gbnews.com/your say. Very keen to hear what you think on this one, because most Brits, 9 out of 10 of us, don't agree with it. Now, we have some very, very sad news this morning. Award-winning journalist and broadcaster John Stapleton, all-round really nice guy, has passed away at the age of 79. His agent confirmed he died peacefully in hospital this morning following a battle with Parkinson's disease complicated by pneumonia. John was a well-known face on Newsnight, Panorama and at GMTV's News Hour. Just a few weeks ago, he appeared on GB News. Let's take a little moment to have a listen to a clip from that interview.
You're talking about the physical effects on your body. What about the mental effects? We're running tapes today of all of us on TV, and you know, when I think of you in the time, the place, and you used to run about that studio, you know, and whatever, bouncing down, talking to people. Do you ever look at that man and you think, what the heck happened?
Yes, I do. I do, to be honest with you. I also think, you know, what would have happened if Lynn, my wife, was still around, you know.
Yes, of course.
Which is another factor, because I'm on my own now. Get tremendous support from my son, Nick, and his wife, Lisa, and indeed my friends and neighbours. They're all great, but, you know, you'd be a very unusual person if you didn't, from time to time, just sit there and think, God, how life has changed. But I can't do anything about it, so what's the point of moaning about it, you know?
Yeah,
try and make it as light as you possibly can.
And we still manage our lunches.
We still manage our lunches.
Which don't go on perhaps for quite as long as they used to, maybe.
Quite as much wine as
we don't drink quite as much wine.
And you two have such a lovely friendship, and you worked together for a long time. I mean, 17 years in the telly world is
17 years.
Incredible, isn't it?
Never a dull moment with Penny Smith, I can tell you, as Eamon will verify, I'm sure. Never a dull moment.
We just watched that clip that you ran a bit earlier, and it was so funny because there you could see me wanging on about something, and you've got that face on you that you used to wear quite a lot, which was like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm exaggerating.
I've seen it. What the hell's coming next? Yes, exactly. She used to play tricks on me, you know. One of my jobs was at the end of the hour was to do the brief weather forecast, you know, which was on autocue. And after I'd gone down to the studio, she'd go into autocue and change the autocue. So one morning it came up and it said, if you're waking up this morning, you may experience damp patches.
And you read it, and then you stopped and looked at me, and that made it much worse.
Exactly.
Oh, dear.
I can't believe that was just a few short weeks ago, sitting here in the studio. OK, joining me now is GB News presenter, the wonderful Anne Diamond. And really good to talk to you. You obviously knew John and worked with him. And tell us about how you're feeling today, your thoughts, your memories of John.
I can't believe he's gone, you know. It's really upsetting. I was speaking to my mate Nick Owen about it just a few moments ago, and he's devastated too. John was, as you said, he was even nicer off screen than he was on. Yeah. He was a real gentleman, and combined with being a really good journalist. And you didn't often get that. He came to us at TVAM in 1983, I think, almost at the very beginning. And he came from the BBC, and he was frightfully well thought of as a serious journalist. And I think at first he sort of felt like a fish out of water, because he was expected to sit on a sofa next to Roland Ratt and have a laugh as well as have a serious interview. But he warmed to that challenge almost straight away, because he was a very warm person. And of course, we already had Lynn Foldswood, his wife, doing a consumer spot on TVAM in those days too. So we got to know them both really well, and they adored each other. And it's very sad to hear him talk there of losing her, because we were all devastated when she went, and she died during lockdown, so nobody could actually go and comfort him. And it is a real loss. He had a wonderful life, though, I have to say. And his son, Nicholas, can be so proud of both his parents being such a force in broadcasting. Both of them were. But, I mean, I'm very sad, because it feels like the end of an era. He was one of the originals, he really was.
He really was. I mean, I was very lucky. I mean, I didn't work with him like you did, Anne, but very lucky enough to interview him and Lynn. I met Lynn first when she was battling bowel cancer. She did such amazing work, like yourself, with you know, raising awareness of things like this. And then I met John through her, and I just fell a little bit in love with him. He was so warm, so charming, so helpful. And, you know, as a young journalist, he was just so easy to talk to. As you say, he's one of the greats, and I don't think we're ever going to see his like again, are we, Anne?
Well, no, I think it's because he came from that very old-fashioned school of being a good journalist first, really serious good journalist, being able to meet anyone. And then suddenly he found himself in the world of breakfast television, where you could also show your relaxed side and your funny side, and he was right up to that too. So I remember him having a real ding-dong one morning with, would you believe, Enoch Powell, where they honestly tried to tear two bits out of each other because both of them were seriously educated and good at their jobs. And then equally, as I said, he would talk to Roland Rat, and he was very, very funny. So, yeah, well, I mean, we're devastated. There are no words because it's a real, real pity to have lost him. But I know he had a good life, and he had a great marriage, and a lovely son. And what more can you hope for somebody? What more can you wish?
Absolutely. I mean, they were married for 43 years, Anne, which is, you know, in the business of journalism and broadcasting is pretty good going, isn't it? But I mean, he was, you know, people think that, you know, what you've done for a living brilliantly all your career is just sitting on a sofa. It's so much more than that. And John would cover, he reported from El Salvador, Argentina during the Falklands War. You know, he's a proper hard news reporter as well, as you say, chatting to Roland Rat.
Yeah, he was in the Grand Hotel when the Brighton bomb went off.
Yes, of course.
I mean, he was our serious journalist in 1983, when at the beginning TVAM had a terrible start, and then it really had to sort of replace itself in the world of broadcasting, and we needed to take on some really serious figures. He was, of course, the go-to guy, and he threw himself into it with absolute gusto. But he was one of the team. You know, he came to our parties. He did. He was one of the team. What more can you say?
Yeah, no, and he was... And how do you think he'd feel about us two sitting here talking about him now? He'd probably be cringing, I expect.
He'd be so embarrassed. He really would. He wouldn't like it, because he never thought of himself as a star, which is probably why he became one. You know, he just had a word for everybody. He knew exactly. I mean, there are so many clips we can't show it, where he was just chatting away with Margaret Thatcher, and as I say, having a row with Enoch Powell, and then pulling birthday cards out of giant egg cups. And he threw himself into absolutely anything breakfast has to throw at all of us, actually. Anything from light entertainment to very serious interviews. But that's why he was so good at his job and so valued. And he started at TVM at the very start of breakfast television, really, in the first year of it anyway. None of us were originals, and the originals were booted out and we were all brought in. But he then went on, you know, a good serious many years at TVAM, and then of course he went on to GMTV, where he was with Penny. He was everywhere, and I remember being on The Time, The Place with him as well.
Of course.
So, I mean, he popped up all over telly because he was just so good at live and being himself, being a natural.
And that's all you can say. That is the best epitaph we can pay for him. Anne Diamond, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you. That is Anne Diamond there talking about the wonderful John Stapleton, who obviously also in his later years raised so much awareness for Parkinson's. And, you know, you can't do more than that. So, God bless you and R.I.P. At least he's reunited with Lynn now, which is a nice thought, I think, especially for the lad. OK, well, tomorrow morning, Eamon Holmes and Penny Smith, who both worked for a long time with John, like Anne, they were close colleagues and good friends as well. We'll be on GB News Breakfast commemorating John's life. You don't want to miss it. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. Yes, royal revelations. The Duchess of York is facing fresh scrutiny after leaked emails revealed she privately described Jeffrey Epstein as her steadfast, generous and supreme friend. Ouch. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't get too far. We'll see you soon.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts tomorrow at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson, and thank you all so much for your lovely comments about our John Stapleton and I's chat about what he was like as a person. So many lovely comments, and yeah, indeed, R.I.P. He genuinely was a really good guy. Well, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is the weekend, just in case you hadn't noticed. But before we move on, we will have live coverage of Charlie Kirk's funeral in Arizona from 7 p.m. this evening here on GB News, where we are expected to hear from his widow, Erica Kirk, President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. We'll be covering that in full live for you on the channel. OK, let's move on for now, though. Leaked emails have come to light showing the close relationship between Sarah Ferguson and paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. It's been revealed the Duchess of York described the disgraced financier as a steadfast, generous and supreme friend. This after she had claimed to have cut ties with him. That is according to reports in today's newspapers. Joining me now is former royal correspondent at The Sun, Charles Ray. Charles, always good to talk to you. We remember this story from back in the day, obviously. But the front page of the Mail today, very, very damning emails from Sarah Ferguson to Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, don't forget the front page of The Sun as well, because they both got this story. It is a sensational story, and it's just another classic example that if you sleep with dogs, you get fleas. And by God, she has collected a lot of fleas in her life. I mean, these emails are devastating, and God knows what the King and Prince William and other members of the royal family must be thinking this morning, given that Prince Andrew's reputation has been torn to shreds. And this adds, you know, to that controversy. It is appalling, given that she issued an email condemning, you know, Epstein and regretting that she ever had anything to do with him. And less than a month later, because Epstein, already a convicted paedophile, was threatening, you know, to sue her, and she came out with this load of old tosh. And whoever was advising her at the Times, I only hope to God that that person is no longer giving advice to anybody.
You would hope so. I mean, it is very, very damning. And you know, at the time, you know, Jeffrey Epstein had just been released from a Florida jail, having served 3 months of an 18-month sentence for soliciting prostitution from girls as young as 14. What on earth was she thinking?
And you know, you just said that again, and you have to sort of think again and listen to what was being said. At the time, he was a convicted paedophile. And it's like Andrew saying, you know, I had to fly to New York just to tell Jeffrey I didn't want to have anything more to do with it.
Yeah,
I mean, these two are just, it's ridiculous what has happened with these two. And remember, she borrowed £15,000 or was given a loan of £15,000 to help get her out of a bit of debt, which she mentions in the first email. And it is astounding that these emails have now come to light. It really, really is appalling.
It is. I mean, I remember from back in the day, Charles, I mean, I think she was around about £5 million in debt with lavish spending. So the fact that Epstein could bail her out. And then she said, oh, I'm sorry I said all those things about you. I saw all my children, she's children's author, work disappearing. I didn't want to hurt Andrew one more time. I mean, it's just...
And that's another thing as well. She was more interested in protecting her own reputation, because you're absolutely right. She was writing all sorts of children's novels, Budgie the Helicopter and everything else. And she'd been told that if she had had this case go ahead, it would have seriously damaged her reputation. That's a reputation that's been seriously damaged and kicked around for a very, very long time, Dawn. A very long time.
Yeah, indeed. Charles, always good to talk to you. Thank you very much. That's former royal correspondent and my old colleague at The Sun, Charles Ray. Thank you very much. In response, a spokesman for the Duchess has said the Duchess spoke of her regret about her association with Epstein many years ago, and as they have always been, her first thoughts are with his victims. Like many people, she was taken in by his lies. As soon as she was aware of the extent of the allegations against him, she not only cut off contact but condemned him publicly, to the extent that he then threatened to sue her for defamation for associating him with paedophilia. She does not resolve from anything she said then. This email was sent in the context of advice the Duchess was given to try and assuage Epstein and his threats. OK. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. Plenty more coming up on today's show. Yes, Donald Trump has warned Afghanistan on Saturday that bad things would happen if the Taliban did not give back the country's largest military airfield. But first, let's get the news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon. The top story this lunchtime. Veteran broadcaster John Stapleton has died at the age of 79. The watchdog and Panorama presenter passed away this morning after Parkinson's disease complicated by pneumonia. Tributes pouring in, remembering him as one of the very best, with unmatched brilliance across 5 decades of journalism. A dramatic shift set for foreign policy. Sir Keir Starmer will announce Britain will recognise a Palestinian state. Israel, though, calls the move rewarding terror. The United Nations warns Gaza's conditions are cataclysmic. The Duchess of York is back under scrutiny. Leaked emails show Sarah Ferguson calling Jeffrey Epstein a supreme friend in 2011. Her team insists she'd already condemned him and says Epstein was threatening to sue. Sir Ed Davey says he wants Ofcom to go after Elon Musk, accusing him of crimes on X. He claims Mr. Musk scrapped child safety teams, allowing adverts linked to paedophilia and self-harm. The billionaire denies the allegations, calling them an attack on free speech. RAF Typhoons have scrambled over Poland in NATO's biggest air defence mission since the Ukraine war began. It follows Russian drones breaching EU airspace. The Polish Prime Minister is warning Europe is now closer to conflict than at any time since World War II. And Oxford Street has fallen silent today. Cars out and people in. Sir Sadiq Khan's showcase will see live music, art and food take over Europe's busiest shopping street. He says the event will offer a glimpse of a greener, safer Oxford Street for the future. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with you at 2.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Thank you, Sam. Remember, let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're covering today or anything you want to have a chat about. I'm here for you, to listen to you, and it's very easy to get involved at gbnews.com/your say and join in our conversation. Loads more coming up. It's pretty packed today. Church leaders say they are deeply concerned about the use of the Christian faith and symbols at the Unite the Kingdom rally this time last week, wasn't it? Saying any corrupting of the Christian faith to exclude others is unacceptable. What do you make of that one, though? All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it was a wet day yesterday, but plenty more in the way of sunshine today. Feeling colder out there, and we'll see a frost overnight tonight. So take a look at the bigger picture then. Low pressure to the east is now clearing through. We've got northerly winds, so a colder feel in the forecast. So through the rest of this morning and into the afternoon, a cloudy picture towards the far south of England with some showers affecting the southwest. A much brighter picture though across Wales and northern England and central areas compared to Saturday. Otherwise, showers persisting across Scotland, Northern Ireland with brisk winds running down from a northerly direction, the strongest across that northeastern coast. So feeling chilly when you factor in the winds with temperatures falling below average for the time of year. So through this evening then, across Scotland, many places holding on to showers, some of them even perhaps wintry over the highest mountains. Otherwise, across Northern Ireland, hold on to some showers here too, especially across northern England. But towards the south of that, there is going to be some early evening sunshine with clouds still lingering across the far south. But that cloud towards the far south will start sinking its way southwards, so clearing. We'll still hold on to a few showers, but most of them will be easing as we go through the night, and then higher pressure building in to give lengthy clear skies. There'll be a few showers still lingering across Orkney and Shetland, but otherwise temperatures will be falling away, so there will be a frost to start Monday morning, but perhaps just holding up a little bit higher than that across the south and east, where we hold on to a bit more of a breeze. So a chilly start to Monday morning, but plenty of sunshine out there. Cloudy across Scotland as we go through the afternoon, still holding on to some showers across Orkney and Shetland, and cloud just filtering in across the southeast later. But otherwise, temperatures falling below average, but still feeling pleasant in the sunshine. Bye-bye.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very easy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday afternoon out there. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is the weekend. Now, just before we move on, tomorrow night we'll be bringing, yes, it's finally here, we'll be bringing you more coverage of events from America and news from the White House when our new show, The Late Show Live, launches in Washington, D.C. Here's a little taste of what you can expect.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts tomorrow at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Ben and Bev working hard on that one for you. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be crackering, isn't it? OK, now, church leaders are deeply concerned about the use of the Christian faith and symbols at the Unite the Kingdom rally. In an open letter, senior figures representing a spread of denominations warned against the misuse of Christianity. This is in response to the march in London last week, in which some protesters carried wooden crosses and flags bearing the Christian slogans and chanted "Christ is King" and participated in public prayer recitals, all of which you thought might be, you know, quite nice for the church. Anyway, the letter said the cross is the ultimate sign of sacrifice for the other. Jesus calls us to love both our neighbours and our enemies and to welcome the stranger. Any co-opting or corrupting of the Christian faith to exclude others is unacceptable. OK, joining me now is a co-host of the Catholic Unscripted podcast, Mark Lambert. Mark, a very quite strongly worded letter from, clergy from across sort of like various branches of the Christian faith. What do you make of that?
Well, it's ironic that this woke them up from their slumber, really, Dawn, isn't it? What strikes me about this story is that, once again, many church leaders show themselves completely unable to speak with any conviction into the real concerns of ordinary people. What they offer is a kind of bland, lowest common denominator message about inclusion and diversity, and it doesn't inspire anyone. People are looking for something that will actually hold society together in the face of real challenges, and that cohesion has always come from a love of what makes our civilization strong: family, honour, integrity, justice, and a well-ordered society. It's not surprising that citizens, when faced with ideological threats, begin looking for an ideology that can defend them. And the truth is that the Christian gospel is the most robust defence we have against those threats, because it doesn't just offer slogans, it offers a way of life. But it's not enough to adapt the cross as a symbol. People need to live its ethos. And that means going to church, being good fathers and mothers, raising children in virtue, and recognising that ultimately it's only Christ that can save our civilization.
Which, Mark, to be honest with you, we covered the march extensively last weekend, and I saw many, many families, all colours, all creeds, young people, older people, just families there, having an opinion, voicing. Some were carrying crosses. Many were carrying crosses because they were mourning the murder of Charlie Kirk. So it's perfectly understandable for them to be doing that. I do not understand why this letter is just so strongly worded and basically accusing pretty much everyone on that march of being right-wing and carrying a cross, and they can't do that. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and this is why they failed. They've failed in their mission completely, and it's a crisis of leadership, isn't it? And where you've got poor leaders, then, other people will come in and fill that vacuum. And this is what you're seeing is a more muscular form of Christianity that really speaks to the heart of the threats that people perceive in society.
I mean, obviously the church didn't have a problem with marching under the cross when the Crusades were going on, did they? They've forgotten about that.
No, absolutely. And that's why I think people are rallying behind this symbol. And as you said in your introduction, this is something that the church should get behind, surely, and help to give it an authentic flavour of what it means to be a Christian, not to be frightened of it. The fact that they're frightened of it, to me, they're just like the bad tenants in the gospel, that what will the Lord do when he sees that they've brought forth no fruit? He'll just cast them out of the vineyard. And that's what these men are. They're failed.
I mean, and surely, with congregations falling across the country, they want to attract these families that we saw marching last week into their churches. This isn't the right way to go about it.
Exactly. It's completely the wrong end of the stick, isn't it? And what you need is to, enter into that space and to provide strong leadership and to explain why the Christian message is the right way to go ahead. But they don't seem to understand that at all, Dawn. They don't seem to even understand what the gospel is anymore. Instead, they've turned it into some sort of socialist manifesto, haven't they?
they have. Mark, I love that phrase. Thank you very much. That is Mark Lambert, who is a co-host of the Catholic Unscripted podcast. I'm sure it's a Sunday. Lots of you will have your thoughts on that one at gbnews.com/your say. Now, if you do want to escape, and I don't blame you, it's time for the Great British Giveaway, and there's still plenty of time for you to become the biggest winner today. And the escape comes in the form of a 4-berth motorhome. Brand new, could be yours, drive wherever you want, and banking £30,000 in tax-free cash. It's a prize package worth over £104,000, and here's how it could be yours.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British Giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. Loads more coming up on today's show. Justice Secretary David Lammy, I think that's his current job, I don't know, it's difficult to keep up, isn't it, has announced 10,000 more prison officers will be given body armour in a bid to improve safety in jails after several high-profile attacks. Stay tuned to find out more on that one. And if you are in search of some holiday sun, oh my God, yes, we could do with it, couldn't we? Here is a forecast for those top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Whilst it's turning colder in the UK, plenty of warmth remains across many parts of the Mediterranean. Hot and sunny conditions across most of Greece and Turkey through the next couple of days, but much more unsettled across the central and western Med, particularly parts of Italy, and in the north we could see some flooding over the next couple of days. Showers for northern parts of Spain and Portugal perhaps as well, but mostly fine across the rest of Iberia, Madeira and the Canary Islands. And through the next few days it stays mostly fine and settled and very warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts tomorrow at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Right, let's make it brief. Welcome back. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. Here's Aidan McGee. Aidan, talk sport.
Look, I want to shine a light on West Ham. I know you've been across the story in the last few days as well, but there was a protest, I think, about a number of fans in the hundreds. I think we've got footage of it in a moment as well, protesting, not against Graham Potter per se. I think it was more of a protest against the club
screen now.
as a whole. And as you see the pictures there, the West Ham fans advancing forward there with a banner saying "Save our soul."
Several hundreds.
You know why? It's interesting because they can point at the stadium and how it's not helping the team. Well, they've got a case in point at the moment because they haven't won a home game since February 27th.
Thanks, Aidan.
Now, if you look at Potter's record compared to Lopetegui, who was sacked, last January. Potter's won 6 Premier League games in 25. Lopetegui managed 7 in 22. His record is marginally better, and that's why I think West Ham now are considering alternatives. Slaven Bilic has been spoken about this week. They're aware of his availability. Nuno Espirito Santo, would he go back in there soon after Nottingham Forest? You know what? I think he actually would. Not just because West Ham is a big, glamorous club, but also because if you stay out of the limelight for too long, you don't get back in these days. Remember what happened with Alan Kirbishley? He left West Ham. He never got another job because he had an unfair dismissal case going against the club. But what's compounded the misery, not just the fact they're in the bottom 3 now in 18th place.
Thanks, Aidan.
But they've lost at home to Chelsea, Spurs and Crystal Palace.
Thanks,
tough
Aidan.
Trip yesterday. Sorry, tough assignment yesterday.
It's been great talking to you today.
Palace are a decent side. They were a reasonable start to the season. They've won the FA Cup and the Community Shield this year, despite losing Eberezer, their star player, to Crystal Palace. They held on to Mark Gurhey, but even so, at home, you would expect West Ham to seize initiative. Now, I watched the game yesterday. They did have a little bit of a spell either side of half-time. They got the equaliser with Jared Bowen. They did. Sometimes in the Premier League, Dawn, that's enough to win a game. It really is, but it's just you need a little bit of luck, and that's we look at United yesterday. There was a manager there, Ruben Amorim, who needed a bit of luck desperately, and then after 5 minutes, Chelsea's goalkeeper Robert Sanchez comes charging out and trips Brian Mbeumo, and then for the rest of the game they're against 10 men, although they did get a man of their own sent off in the second half.
Great game. Thank you very much, Aidan. That was good. I watched that one. That was actually quite good. It's time to go through. Oh no, we've just done that bit, haven't we? Don't go too far. We're taking a quick break now. Despite 9 out of 10 Brits are saying it's a bad idea, the Prime Minister is set to recognise Palestine as a state. What do you reckon on that one? All of that coming up after the weather. We'll see you very soon. Thanks very much, Aidan. Thank you.
No, what?
Sorry, I went.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption.
I must have said that.
Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, high pressure will be building as we go into the new week, bringing plenty of settled conditions, but it is going to be feeling colder out there with frost overnight. And the area of high pressure is coming in from the west, but it is drawing down northerly winds, so it's still going to be feeling cold out there, especially during the mornings. So through the rest of this evening, then some early evening sunshine across England and Wales. The showers will be easing as we go overnight, just maybe lingering across some coastal areas and especially across Orkney and Shetland. But otherwise, the winds will be easing from the west and we'll see plenty of clear skies, but that will allow temperatures to fall to give a widespread frost to start Monday morning and even some mist and fog patches. So as we start Monday morning then, we still hold on to showers, especially across Orkney and Shetland and western parts of Scotland. Feeling chilly to start the day though, but plenty of blue sky across Northern Ireland, Northern England, Wales and much of the south. There is going to be a few showers just clipping into Sussex and Kent as we go through Monday, but otherwise a much drier and settled picture through Monday despite that chilly feel in the air. Cloud will thicken across parts of Scotland from the west, and we still hold on to showers across Orkney and Shetland. Some cloud will just move into eastern England and a few showers may linger here, but otherwise for the vast majority it's fine, it's dry, it's sunny. Temperatures are going to be below average, but it won't be as breezy out there, so actually in the sunshine it should still feel pleasant, highs of 17 degrees. So as we go through Monday evening then, a bit more cloud around across parts of Scotland, Northern England, still holding on to showers across Orkney and Shetland, perhaps just not as cold here overnight to start Tuesday, but otherwise through the week with high pressure it's going to be fine and settled, temperatures just generally recover.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock on Sunday, the 21st of September, and this is the weekend on GB News. Your main stories this hour. The Prime Minister is set to recognise Palestine as a state. The announcement is expected later today after the government made a promise to make the move unless Israel met certain conditions. However, critics hit out at the decision, including Nigel Farage, who believes the Palestinian state can't be separated from Hamas. And meanwhile, Justice Secretary David Lammy has announced 10,000 more prison officers will be given body armour in a bid to improve safety in jails after several high-profile attacks. Stay tuned to find out more on that one. Meanwhile, Donald Trump warned Afghanistan on Saturday that bad things would happen if the Taliban did not give back the country's largest military airfield. And thousands will gather in Arizona later today for Charlie Kirk's memorial, with President Trump, Vice President Vance and top US officials set to be in attendance. And this is sad. Broadcasting legend and all-round good egg John Stapleton has died peacefully in hospital at the age of 79 this morning. I'm Dawn Neeson and this is The Weekend. So we have lots to talk about this afternoon, and thank you so much for your company. I do appreciate it. It's a Sunday lunchtime. You've probably got loads of things you need to be doing, but sit here and have a chat with me, eh? Very easy to get involved about all the things we're talking about. gbnews.com/your say, and I'll read as many of your messages out as I possibly can. I promise I will. But all of that coming up after the headlines with Sam Francis.
Dawn, thank you, and a very good afternoon to you. Just after 2 o'clock, well, the top story, Sir Keir Starmer is set to announce that Britain will recognise a Palestinian state in a statement this afternoon in what will be a dramatic shift in UK foreign policy. The Prime Minister says that the move comes after Israel failed to agree to a ceasefire or commit to a two-state peace process. In the last few minutes, a spokeswoman for Israel's Prime Minister has said that any recognition of a Palestinian state would be absurd, and claimed that reports that Britain could make that announcement today amounts to rewarding terrorism. Well, it comes as Israel's latest offensive in Gaza has forced hundreds of thousands to flee, with the United Nations describing conditions as cataclysmic. Here, meanwhile, the Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey has made comments on that possible recognition. He says it's a good start towards peace, but that much more needs to be done.
We need to do far more. Particularly, we need to put pressure on President Trump. He's the one person who can stop all this fighting and get the food into the Palestinians and move towards a two-state solution and get the hostages released. It's why I decided not to go to the state banquet when President Trump was here, because I think we need to put pressure on him. Our government needs to put pressure on President Trump to do the right thing and get peace in Israel-Palestine.
In other news, 2 newspapers have revealed an email said to be from Sarah Ferguson to Jeffrey Epstein, calling him a supreme friend, despite his conviction for sex offences. The Sun and the Mail on Sunday report it was sent in 2011, just weeks after the Duchess of York publicly criticised and distanced herself from the convicted sex offender. Her spokesperson says the email came after Epstein threatened to sue her for defamation, insisting she had already condemned him and cut ties. In interviews at the time, the Duchess admitted her involvement with Epstein was, she said, a gigantic error of judgment. British fighter jets have carried out a NATO air defence mission over Poland after a wave of Russian drone incursions into its airspace. 2 RAF Typhoons took off from Lincolnshire on Friday night before returning to the UK early on Saturday. It follows the most serious breach since the Ukraine war began, with Poland shooting down 3 of 19 drones in a single day. The Polish Prime Minister claims Europe is the closest it's ever been to open conflict since the World War II. Russia, though, denies the violations, but NATO says the flights do send a clear signal. 10,000 prison officers are to be given stab-proof vests in a major security upgrade backed by £15 million of funding. The new Justice Secretary, David Lammy, made the announcement at Belmarsh Prison, raising the number of vests from now 750 to 10,000. 5,000 guards in high-security jails will get individually fitted armour, while 500 tasers will also be issued to trained staff. It follows an alleged attack at Franklin Prison in April, where 3 officers were badly injured. Terror convict Hasham Abedi was later charged with attempted murder. David Lammy says officers must feel secure to stay in the job.
Many of us were shocked
by the outrage of prison officers being attacked in HMP Franklin just a few months ago. It's hugely important that this important work has officers feeling safe as they keep our country safe.
Veteran broadcaster John Stapleton has sadly died at the age of 79 after a remarkable career spanning more than half a century. He passed away peacefully in hospital this morning after living with Parkinson's disease. Over 5 decades, he became a familiar face on Watchdog, Newsnight, Panorama and Good Morning Britain. And in 2004, named RTS Presenter of the Year, praised, of course, for his sharp interviewing and calm authority during the Iraq War. Well, here on GB News, in fact, just weeks ago, in what would have been his final television appearance, he spoke to us about his illness. And here's a moment from that conversation as he reunited on air with his friend and long-time co-host, Penny Smith.
I went through the airport the other day. I was tempted to have one, but as I was going through, I've also got false hips. Everything's been replaced on me, so for eyes, hips, And when I go through security, beep, 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 every single time. Yeah. This particular time, they said, sorry, sir, we've got to take you to one side and into a private room for a closer examination. I said, what's the problem? He said, we found some evidence of steel around your groin. I said, I'm 79 years old, for God's sake. I should be so lucky. Steel around my groin, you kidding?
Those are the headlines for you this hour. I'll be back in 30 minutes' time. Now, though, let's get straight back to Dawn.
Thank you very much, Sam. OK, now before we move on, we will have live coverage of Charlie Kirk's funeral in Arizona from 7 p.m. this evening here on GB News, where we are expected to hear from his widow, Erica Kirk. President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance will also be speaking at the memorial. You can see live footage, live pictures there coming in from Arizona. And it is expected the service to draw nearly 100,000 people. We will be covering that live for you later on the channel. OK, now Sir Keir Starmer is preparing to officially recognise the state of Palestine this afternoon. This comes as a damning survey finds almost 9 out of 10 Brits do not back the Prime Minister's decision to go ahead with Palestinian recognition without conditions. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Kenny Badenoch has accused the government of rewarding terror with the move, a sentiment echoed by President Donald Trump on his state visit last week. Have a listen.
Put the hostages up as bait. They're going to put the hostages in front of any attack. And that's pretty brutal. We haven't heard that one in a long time. So we have to remember that. So I have a disagreement with the Prime Minister on that score. Okay?
Yes, I think a lot of us do, to be honest with you. Meanwhile, leader of the Lib Dems, Sir Ed Davey, has welcomed the Prime Minister's decision. Here's what he said.
Something that's needed to be done for years. It's part of a peace process to get a two-state solution for Israel and for Palestine. But of course, we need to do far more. Particularly, we need to put pressure on President Trump. He's the one person who can stop all this fighting and get the food into the Palestinians and move towards a two-state solution and get the hostages released. It's why I decided not to go to the state banquet when President Trump was here, because I think we need to put pressure on him. Our government needs to put pressure on President Trump to do the right thing and get peace in Israel-Palestine.
I'm not entirely sure President Trump would have even noticed whether Ed Davey was there or not. Any case, GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster has the story for us.
Government recognising a Palestinian state today. The Prime Minister saying the international community has a, quote, moral responsibility to act, that the situation in Gaza since they set this deadline in September has worsened and is now intolerable. This, of course, was a pledge that Labour made back in July. It followed a letter from over half the parliamentary Labour Party calling on the government to recognise Palestinian statehood. And the government attached certain conditions for Israel to meet by now, which included a ceasefire, committing to a long-term peace deal, including delivering ultimately a two-state solution, something which the current Israeli government is not interested in doing, and also massively increasing aid. Of course, none of those things have happened subsequently. The government had hoped that it would increase pressure on Israel, but of course, Hamas, many will say, are being rewarded by this action, and that's exactly what the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is saying. He is saying that this rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism. But the United Kingdom is far from alone. Shortly after the Prime Minister made this announcement in July, France did the same, the first G7 country to say so. But many United Nations members already do recognise Palestine as a state. But what difference is it really going to make on the ground? Opposition parties, including the Conservatives, saying absolutely none at all, that it's simply gesture politics. Now, here at the Lib Dem conference in Brighton, Sir Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, says that this is absolutely necessary. It's something that Lib Dems have been calling for a long time. But ultimately, the reason they're doing this is to try to lead to an end to the fighting in Gaza. That looks very unlikely, and it also risks a rift with the United States, because we saw at Chequers the other day, the Prime Minister and Donald Trump clearly said that this was a disagreement between the two countries, and I think that's why the government today announcing further sanctions on Hamas to try to sort of rebut those concerns, and also, of course, stating that Hamas was to have no involvement in any deal Palestine state going forward.
That was Catherine Forster with the story of the Palestinian state, because it's a moral duty, according to our Prime Minister. Not according to you, though. Brenda and Michael, good afternoon, you two, says, Starmer, you have not got the backing of the British people on this one. And where was this other comment now, which is a really good comment? And Molly says, I'm ashamed of my government. What a shower of cowards. Keep those messages coming in, gbnews.com/your say. Joining me now, I'm still to say, is political editor of the HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield. Kevin, always good to have a chat. What do you make of this? This Palestine is a state recognised by the UK and several other countries. It's not just us. Is it right to do so?
I mean, I think, Don, what's interesting about it is the reason behind it. And now this is a purely political move, I believe, from Keir Starmer. Catherine just mentioned there, you know, the pressure that he's been under from more than half of the Parliamentary Labour Party to recognise Palestine. He knows that, let's face it, his popularity amongst his MPs, much like the wider population of the country, is not great right now. This is an attempt, I think, to throw them a bit of a bone, really, to say, look, I've listened, I'm taking it on board, and I'm going to make this move that you have requested. It's also worth remembering, of course, that Labour MPs are under pressure in a lot of constituencies. At the election last year, a lot of Gaza independents defeated Labour MPs. Wes Streeting almost lost his seat, incredibly, that night. Jonathan Ashworth, very senior Labour figure, he did lose his seat. And you know, speaking to Labour MPs, a lot of them are still very concerned that those campaigners have not gone away. It's still a very live issue in these constituencies. So I think you've got to bear that in mind as well when trying to work out precisely why Keir Starmer has chosen to do this.
So this is just basically more about sort of like caring about his own political skin than about the lives of people in Gaza.
I think a lot of it is to do with party management. I mean, I think he's genuine when he says, you know, he's very concerned, obviously, about the footage that we see, the images coming out of Gaza, terrible suffering by the civilian population. But, you know, the question we have to ask is, does recognising Palestine as a state, does that bring the war, an end to the war, any closer now? Listening to the reaction both from Israel but also from Donald Trump, who will need to basically broker any peace deal, I have to say it doesn't look as though doing this will do anything other than be a bit of a gesture. I don't think it will bring the war closer to an end.
It's not going to, you know, from everyone you speak to, it's like, how's it going to work? Where is this Palestinian state for a start? I mean, Israel's sort of in the middle of Gaza and the West Bank, so that's one issue. It's not going to stop Israel doing what they want to do in any case. And it's not going to win him any votes. Almost 9 out of 10 Brits do not back this.
Yeah, I mean, that is the issue, isn't it? I don't think it probably doesn't go far enough to assuage his critics on the left, and it just does more to annoy his critics on the right. Now, relations between the UK government and Israel right now are at an all-time low anyway. This is only going to make things even worse. So any influence that the UK had in trying to persuade Israel to seek a peace deal, that's going to go completely out of the window. We're not going to be listened to at all in Israel. And it's largely a symbolic gesture. As I say, it doesn't bring the end to the war, any closer than we are right now, unfortunately. If anything, the end to the war seems further away than it ever has.
OK, Kevin, while you're on, it is just a breaking news now that it has, Keir Starmer has officially announced that the UK is recognising a Palestinian state. So that is breaking news right now, happening while you're live on air. So this morning we were speculating it's in all newspapers, but that now is official. The UK joins other countries, including Australia, Belgium, Canada, France and Portugal, who are all expected to follow suit and recognise Palestine this very weekend. What does this mean, though, for our relationship with America? And we know it's one of the disagreements that Trump and Starmer had when they were in that press conference earlier this week.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's no doubt that Britain and America are definitely not on the same page, not even in the same book. I think when it comes to this particular issue. Now, I know that Number 10, I think, breathed a sigh of relief that the visit with Donald Trump went better than expected, probably, or as well as could be expected. But that was a very noticeable bone of contention between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer. They've rubbed along remarkably well, given that they come from very different political backgrounds. However, this is a major difference between them, and it doesn't look from this announcement that's just happened that that's going to be any closer to being resolved.
It just, I'm sorry to say, it just, I mean, considering people's lives are being lost, it just seems to be political gestures rather than actually doing anything to end the deaths of so many millions of innocent people.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. It's a symbolic gesture, really, recognising Palestine. Yeah, it doesn't have any practical impact, really. It just means that Britain is, joining other countries. You mentioned the list there, and it gives Keir Starmer something to announce at the United Nations General Assembly. Other than that, it doesn't change a thing. Now, what everyone wants is for an end to this war, and anything that governments do right now, you have to ask yourself the question: will this hopefully lead to a ceasefire? Will it lead to an end to the conflict? And unfortunately, on the face of it, I don't think this will.
Well, I mean, the families of the hostages, which are still being held, obviously, from the horrors of October 7, they have written to the Prime Minister saying Hamas are already celebrating this decision that the UK has made and have gone back on a ceasefire deal. We, the families, this is, write to you with a simple plea: do not take this step of recognising Palestine as a state until our loved ones are home in our arms. Those words have fallen on deaf ears.
Yeah, and, there's almost a recognition within Downing Street that this is not going to go down well with lots and lots of people, including the families of the hostages, because side by side, Keir Starmer is saying, well, we're also going to increase sanctions on Hamas. So that's a way of almost admitting that, it can be perceived as rewarding Hamas. For as long as Hamas are in control in Palestine or in Gaza, recognising Palestine as a state, I can understand why critics of that decision will say, well, this is surely rewarding Hamas, who are they're not interested in ending the war. They have said that their ultimate ambition is to destroy Israel, and that isn't going to change.
That is their mission statement, and originally when they were democratically elected, democratic being inverted commas, their mission statement, Kevin, wasn't just to destroy the state of Israel, but to destroy Jewish people.
Yep, absolutely, and I think that gets to the nub really of why this is such a controversial decision. Obviously, Keir Starmer will have weighed it up with his advisors. However, I think there's going to be quite a big backlash to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, Keir Starmer's own wife is Jewish.
Yeah, well, you know, this is obviously another factor, I'm sure, that that maybe played a part in it. But yeah, Keir Starmer clearly thinks this is one way to try and get back into, the improve his popularity. But as you said earlier, 9 in 10 people say that they're opposed to it. So again, it's going to go down pretty badly with a large section of
yeah,
voters.
and that's Kevin. That's 89% of Labour voters say they don't back this. It's not even going down with his own supporters, let alone people that are more likely to vote Conservative or Reform.
Well, absolutely, and at a time when there's already massive speculation about Keir Starmer's own personal position, then this can only cause even more pressure, I think, to be put on him at a time when he needs to try and win over as many Labour voters, not just Labour members. This will go down, I think, well with a lot of Labour members, but Labour voters, those are the people that he's at risk of losing, and he needs to win them back very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, to try and, I think, appease Trump slightly, he has mentioned that they will be placing sanctions on Hamas. How do you think Hamas are going to react to that? Do you think they'll be quaking in their tunnels?
Well, it's not going to bring the end to the war any quicker, is it? I mean, all the efforts against Hamas thus far, going back to October the 7th, the immediate wake of October the 7th, have not made a blind bit of difference. I think Hamas will say, thank you very much for recognising Palestine as a state. We appreciate that gesture. The sanctions, it'll be like water off a duck's back.
Yeah, exactly that. Do you think any other political party in this country would have gone down this route?
Well, the Lib Dems, I'm sure,
yes.
would have done so, but certainly not Reform or the Conservatives, and particularly Reform, as we've seen with opinion polls, they're miles ahead right now of both Labour and the Conservatives. That is obviously a major difference, along with other differences between Labour and Reform, but certainly it's not something that a Reform government would have done. I don't think it's something that a Conservative government would have done either. And yeah, it'll be interesting. Keir Starmer will have to, or a representative of his will have to explain it to MPs when they come back after the conference recess.
Yeah. Oh, obviously, Kevin, coming up on the rails as well, we have the newly energised Green Party under Zach Walensky, and obviously the Jeremy Corbyn, Zara Sultana, whatever it's called, party. I mean, they would have done this as well. They are going to be celebrating this move. But do you think Starmer should be worried about them actually, and how many Labour voters are now going to go for them?
Well, I think he'll be less concerned by Jeremy Corbyn's Zara Sultana's party than he was maybe this time last week, given that they seem to have completely imploded.
Yes.
There's been a massive fallout between Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn. It's difficult to see how they're going to piece that one back together. The Greens, it's interesting, Zach Walensky, very charismatic, almost a sort of Nigel Farage off the left. I think that's how he would like to present himself. And undoubtedly there will be a lot of Labour MPs in maybe left-leaning seats who will be looking over their shoulders at the Greens, are losing votes certainly to the Greens and also to the Lib Dems on their left. If there's a further split in the left-wing vote, then obviously that potentially could help the Conservatives, but more likely Reform. So again, that's another major factor, I think, in Keir Starmer's thinking in making this announcement on Palestine.
Do you think he actually realises some of the horrors that Hamas have inflicted? Obviously, October 7, they seem to have very short memories. I mean, they've ignored the letters from the hostages, and they seem to be, Palestine can be a state. This is, without doubt, I think everyone would agree, rewarding Hamas, because they are in charge and they're not going to relinquish control of Palestine when it is a state, if that ever happens. I just want to mention this one interview to you, Kevin. It's an interview with the oldest son of Hassan Youssef, a co-founder of Hamas, and he's gone to the other side now, and he says, talking about about the October 7, he goes, I wouldn't mind what's going on. He goes, but you show me one article of a prominent Palestinian leader of either side, over the West Bank or Gaza, and who said, this is not us. October 7th shouldn't have happened. This is not what we are about. And he goes, not even on social media have I seen anyone say that.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm sure Keir Starmer is more than aware of what Hamas have done, which I think is why a lot of people are scratching their heads at this decision. You know, this is something that's been called for a long time.
Yeah.
That's probably why it has taken until now for Keir Starmer to do
Kevin,
it.
Kevin, you've been marvellous talking to me. Thank you very much. That's political editor of HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield. Kevin, we are now going to Keir Starmer to see what he's actually got to say. Thank you very much, Kevin. OK, now, let's...
So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the State of Palestine. We recognised the State of Israel more than 75 years ago as a homeland for the Jewish people. Today, we join over 150 countries who recognise a Palestinian state also. A pledge to the Palestinian and Israeli people that there can be a better future. I know the strength of feeling that this conflict provokes. We have seen it on our streets, in our schools, in conversations we've had with friends and family. It has created division. Some have used it to stoke hatred and fear, but that solves nothing. Not only must we reject hate, we must redouble our efforts to combat hatred in all its forms. We must channel our efforts, united together in hope, behind the peaceful future that we want to see. The release of the hostages, an end to the violence, an end to the suffering, and a shift back towards a two-state solution as the best hope for peace and security for all sides.
OK, that's Keir Starmer, the breaking news that they are officially, or we are officially declaring that we are going to recognise Palestine as a state. I just want to read you very quickly. Aya David, who's brother of one of the hostages still being held, he's the one that we saw emaciated in that clip that Hamas put out in a video last month. I, David, the hostage brother, says, giving this recognition is like saying to Hamas, it is OK, you can keep starving the hostages, you can keep using them as human shields. Just leaving that one there for you. OK, let me know what you think about this. I mean, I personally find it very upsetting. 9 out of 10 people in this country do not agree with this move whatsoever. And as you heard from Kevin Schofield just now, it is a political move. It is to keep the left of the Labour Party on side rather than any genuine feelings about what is going on in Gaza. OK, right, I think we can be now joined by Henry Bolton to give us an opinion on this one. Henry, good to see you. Henry, we've heard the Prime Minister now officially doing his moral duty, as the front of the Telegraph says today, and recognising a Palestinian state. That's his moral duty, evidently. What do you make of that?
Yeah, his moral duty to the Labour Party, perhaps, in appeasing the Palestinian sectarian vote here in the UK, which mainly supports Labour councillors and Labour MPs. But look, you know, he's talking about the need for a two-state solution. We can agree with that. But this is not the way to go about it. The way to go about it is not to place demands on Israel, as he's been doing, and conditions on Hamas. So, you know, there's a double standard there. He's got, again, a two-tier approach to this. The fact of the matter is that there is no Palestinian state to recognise. So this is all just, you know, this is just virtue signalling. The Palestinians at the moment are divided between two areas which are non-contiguous. There's the West Bank and there's Gaza. Gaza is run by Hamas, a terrorist organization, a prescribed terrorist organization. So 50% of, if you like, it's roughly 50% of the Palestinians in that region are governed by a terrorist organization. And yet he wants to recognize that because he's recognizing both parts, both geographical areas. The other side is run by the Palestinian Authority, Fatah. So all this is going to do is undermine the prescription of Hamas as a terrorist organization, thereby embolden them and achieve nothing bar some political support for Starmer and the Labour Party back here in the UK. It will also, I might add, make relations with Israel more difficult. We've already seen the Ministry of Defence pull Israeli students away from the Defence and Staff College. So, you know, we are taking sides in this war, in this conflict, and it's not the side that is the victim in this, remembering what happened on October the 7th. So there is no good reason for this. This is not leadership. This is not statesmanship. This is appeasement of a domestic sectarian vote here in the United Kingdom with no practical effect on the ground except to embolden a terrorist organisation and to an extent alienate a close ally in the Middle East.
I mean,
I don't see any good out of this at all.
The devil is always in the detail with this mythical state of Palestine. Where's it going to be? Is it going to be the West Bank? Is it going to be Gaza? Because in between those two is the state of Israel, which Hamas have sworn to wipe off the face of the earth.
Well, my understanding is that the government is recognising the Palestinian state as it was pre, I think, 1967, they've said. So really, we're talking about the West Bank as was. So that's including Israeli settlements, which are, of course, a very contentious issue, and indeed I believe that Israel has been, pushing the boundaries far too far with those settlements. But that's a slightly different thing, linked but slightly different. And Gaza, so the two areas. But of course, that's an almost impossible state to govern in any case because they are not contiguous, they're not joined together. They share borders, one sort of with Egypt, which Gaza shares a border with Egypt, and Egypt doesn't want anything to do with the Palestinians because of the trouble that they've had with Hamas in the past. So, you know, this is not a workable solution. And I think all that the Prime Minister has done in terms of his aspiration for a two-state solution is undermine it. Because what he's done now is he's entrenched Hamas really into this situation. They're quite happy about it, I'm sure, whilst undermining a lot of the leverage he had on the Palestinians. And we could have exercised, perhaps, not that the UK is a big player, but what influence we have has been undermined by this in terms of achieving a two-state solution and Hamas giving ground and compromising with the Israelis.
So, Henry, we're in this lunatic situation where our Prime Minister has prescribed Palestine action, which seems mostly to be sort of like groups of old people sitting around sort of like holding placards. But at the meantime, giving a green light, and that's what it is, because Hamas are not going to go, well, hey, giving a green light to an actual, proper, real terrorist organisation.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mention Palestine Action, but it's worth saying that they're not all old people, and if they are, they're quite active, because a fortnight ago, they held a protest, 1,800 people protesting in London. Nearly 900 of them arrested because they are prescribed, but 17 of them for assaulting police officers.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, it's just the comparison between that group of people and Hamas. I mean, you know, there is no real comparison.
No, there's not. But you're entirely correct. Look, this is not anything that is going to. Let me rewind. When this was first raised its head about 3 weeks ago, I put out on social media that I think there's even a question as to whether or not the government is now supporting or showing support for a terrorist organisation, a prescribed organisation, and is therefore in violation of the law itself, because it is in a part of this recognising the state of Israel, Palestine. Part of which, Gaza, is governed by Hamas, And therefore, he is surely showing some sort of support for Hamas, which is a proscribed organisation, and therefore he's committing a law under an offence under terrorism law. Now, I'm sure the government can claim that it's got sovereign sort of authority to do something else, but again, we're talking about the contradiction there being absolutely outrageous. It's arrogant and outrageous. And as I say, I would like to hear from the Prime Minister what benefit this will have on the situation on the ground, or how it will encourage both sides to come to the negotiating table sort of sincerely to work towards a two-state solution or any other solution, because I don't see any single link to that. The only benefit I see for anyone in this is for Hamas gaining some legitimacy and encouragement, and for the Prime Minister and the Labour Party to gain some support off the Palestinian vote here in the UK.
It is absolutely frightening, isn't it? And meanwhile, there are still hostages being held. And that was supposedly part of this deal, release the hostages, but that seems to have fallen by the wayside as well.
It wasn't, Dawn, that wasn't part of this deal. The deal really was that the demands were placed on Israel, and then the Hamas was asked, or effectively it's a request to Hamas to release the prisoners as an act of goodwill. So
that was right, yeah.
As I say, it's two-tier Starmer all the way, two-tier Keir all the way, and there is no reason now whatsoever for Hamas to listen to the UK when it comes to releasing those prisoners, those hostages. None. We've removed now all of the compulsion, all of the leverage that we might, although albeit small, that we might have had previously on Hamas to release those hostages. We've now negated that, I think, entirely. Starmer has taken Great Britain, the United Kingdom, off the table when it comes to negotiating a solution for the Middle East now, I think.
And what about that special relationship with America, Henry? How's Trump going to take this one?
Well, he knew it was coming, didn't he? There was that, the question to the Prime Minister when Trump, he gave the press conference with Trump at the end of the state visit, asking him why he was waiting until President Trump left the UK before recognising the Palestinian state. Trump knew it was coming. I think that will probably have been dealt with quietly behind the scenes, and some agreement to disagree on this. The Americans will know that this will have no practical effect on the ground in terms of solving the conflict. They'll just think that, again, it's Starmer being a bit wet and pathetic. I think more importantly, though, is this really what the other countries in the region want to see happen? I think what would be better for Starmer to do would be to exercise some statesmanship and rebuild relations with some of our Middle Eastern partners like Jordan and so on, who we have neglected ever since Tony Blair decided to defer UK foreign policy to that of Washington back in sort of the early 2000s. So that's where we could have some leverage. That's where we could exercise some support, because, ultimately, the solution to what happens in the Middle East has to lie with those in the Middle East, the countries, the nations, the states, the governments, and the people in the Middle East. They're the ones that have the real leverage. Nobody has any leverage apart from them over Hamas. The Americans have leverage over Israel, but we've just lost what little leverage we had over Israel. So, it's the most, second to the Chagos Islands, it's probably the most inept foreign policy decision that we've had in decades from this country, and they're both under government.
Yeah, Tory Justice spokesman Robert Jenrick also mentioned the Chagos Islands as well today when he was talking about this, and saying that it is like, it's this, the declaration of Palestine as a state is up there with giving away the Chagos Islands and then paying vast amounts of money to give them away.
Yeah, I mean, Dawn, there are two things, aren't there, I suppose. One is, could the United Kingdom exercise positive influence over the long-term stability of the Middle East, including Gaza, the West Bank, and that whole region? And the answer, I believe, is yes. We've got long historical links with Jordan, long historical links with Lebanon, long historical links with Saudi Arabia and so on, and with the Israelis. And of course, our linkages to the whole Israeli situation going way back, to the First World War are deep. So I think we could exercise them, but we are a country now who's got a government that believes that we don't have a significant role to play on the international stage, and in fact we're withdrawing from it. Post-Brexit, this is important because we need to have friends, partners and exercise influence on the global stage as an independent nation. Otherwise we're alone, and whether we're individuals or nation states, we need partners and we need to be in society. He's stepping away from that because he's a coward. He is no good whatsoever on the international stage and can't make bold decisions. So he follows the easy moral course, which is the one that his party wants him to follow. I think, the influence we could exercise should be through our partners in the Middle East, rebuilding those relationships as real statesmen would do, not kowtowing to the moral voice and the moral cause as expressed by a domestic vote here in the United Kingdom. I think the Americans understand this. I think Trump is wise enough to understand the nature of the government we've got. I think there are other things that are holding us together with the United States very deeply. I don't see this damaging the relationship, but it won't. But Starmer's not got many cards to play now with the Americans. He's using up his credit. That's a great shame for the United Kingdom, and I think it's a shame for the people of the Middle East.
OK, Henry, there was one other point I wanted to talk to you quickly about this. This decision to recognise the state of Palestine could lead to demands for the UK to pay more than £2 trillion in reparations to the country. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has a long history of threatening to sue Britain in any case. He's demanding reparations in accordance with international law based on the value of the land, which was, as you mentioned earlier, under British rule between 1917 and 1948. So not only does it work on any level with Hamas and the actual reality of a state or saving lives in Gaza, but it could cost us £2 trillion.
I mean, they're all going to try it on, aren't they, Dawn? And this has been a way of trying to sort of exercise some leverage, get something out of the UK. Look, I've worked with the Foreign Office for nearly 2 decades, and I've seen the way that aid is handed out. Every Tom, Dick and Harry tries to milk the United Kingdom government for anything that they can get. There's no harm and nothing to lose by asking for something and demanding it. This government has shown its preparedness to sort of bow down to such demands. Again, the Chagos Islands is an example. The fact that we're giving, £250 million to farmers in other countries to fight climate change, whilst taxing our own farmers, sort of an equivalent amount. This is a government that is handing our taxpayers' money away, and so I don't have any. And again, we've got the West Indian, the West Indies who are. The West Indian states who are out in the Caribbean who are demanding reparations now, so of billions of pounds. So really, they are all trying it on, and they will continue to try it on, Dawn, until we have somebody sitting in Downing Street and somebody sitting in the Foreign Office who turn around and say, "Heard you. The answer is no."
OK, well, let's hope that's the case. Henry Bolton, thank you so much for joining us and talking us through that breaking news that the Prime Minister has declared Palestine a state that the UK will recognise. Joining me now is former senior military intelligence officer Philip Ingram. Philip, so we have done the deed. We have now recognised Palestine as a state. We heard Sir Keir Starmer announce that earlier on. What do you make of this?
Well, I think the timing of it is terrible. I think for an eventual settlement in the Middle East, a two-state solution is going to be the only way forward. But to do it whilst there are still hostages being held, whilst Hamas is still around, is rewarding what Hamas's primary aim is, and that's to get the state of Palestine recognised. Hamas doesn't represent them. This hasn't been from pressure from Fatah, from Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president. This is something that's come on the back of what Hamas has managed to do in the information domain by creating Israel as this demon in the world's eyes. And it's shameful.
Will it make any difference? Will it stop people dying?
No, it won't. It'll probably increase the number of people dying and will probably put British citizens at greater risk in different parts of the world, because what it will do is it will embolden lots of other terror organisations to go, if we follow the same recipe, then we've got a good chance of getting what we want. And therefore, I think it has just taken the world one step further towards greater instability. And that is something that I'm surprised the Prime Minister hasn't thought about.
You do truly believe that it will put British citizens at risk because Hamas have been rewarded for being probably one of the most evil terrorist organisations we've seen in recent times?
Oh, 100%. Iran was in the back foot until today because Hamas is backed by Iran, Hezbollah, who have trained most terror organisations around the world and trained the Taliban in the use of improvised explosive devices, which had a devastating effect on British soldiers in Afghanistan, will now be emboldened, and there'll be other terror organisations will be going and going, we can get our cause by doing this. Keir Starmer has done this purely at this time. In the longer term, this would have been the right thing to do. But an awful lot more has to be put in place before it would be right. He's done this just to appease his backbenchers because he sees what's happening inside his own party. He sees his own party falling apart, and he's trying to protect his own political political scalp.
Politics before people.
Correct, and it's shameful. It really is shameful.
Do you think he's taken any military advice over this decision at all?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so in the slightest. But this is a political decision. The military will provide advice in the same way that security organisations, the intelligence services, will provide advice. And it's advice that's provided. Decision makers then make decisions. It's up to them whether they accept it or not. And unfortunately, when it comes to political decisions, and this is a domestic political decision, and one that he's using to try and bring together, you look at the other countries that have backed it, they've got domestic political issues and are trying to do exactly the same sort of thing. And as Henry Bolton said, it takes us one step further in using up our favours network with the United States at a time when we need to bring the United States closer on board and stop doing things that are pushing us away from them. It's very worrying indeed if this is the sort of decision making our Prime Minister is making.
And obviously, Philip, we still have hostages being held in those tunnels. Hamas released a video, I think, the other month about one of the young men who was incredibly a living skeleton, basically. Yep. His brother has given an interview today saying that, this is just rewarding Hamas. What about our families? What about our loved ones?
Well, it's quite clear the Prime Minister doesn't care about them because, if he'd set the conditions that he would recognise a Palestinian state when Hamas had given up all of the hostages, when Hamas had given up its weapons and had disbanded completely with the main terror leaders being dealt with for the terrorism that they caused. And we have to remember, they are terrorising the Palestinian people that are living inside Gaza. They don't represent the whole of the Palestinian people. The last conflict they had before this was fighting Fatah in a civil war, and Fatah represent the Palestinian people in the West Bank. So they're not a pleasant organisation in any way, shape or form. And for some reason or other, the world has let them control the information domain, where everyone thinks that by waving a Palestinian flag that they are supporting the oppression of the Palestinian people. No, it's Hamas that have oppressed the Palestinian people more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And this is just rewarding them. It's shameful.
And the Prime Minister saying, putting sanctions on Hamas. I mean, they're not going to relinquish control of Gaza, are they?
They're not. Sanctions on Hamas. The Israelis have attacked and killed a large number of the Hamas leadership that were based in Qatar. The other Hamas fighters that are in Gaza, what are sanctions going to do to them? Yeah, absolutely nothing indeed. And I suspect if you get into the detail of what the Prime Minister has announced, it's not going to affect those that are financing it from behind. And those that are sitting as the rich kids, the ones that remain in Qatar or elsewhere, they'll still be doing what they are doing in their 7-star hotels with their multi-million-pound yachts and everything else, whilst the Palestinian people continue to suffer, and they're suffering at the hands of Hamas more than anyone else.
Yeah, quite. OK, Philip, stay with us. We're just going to remind people who are just joining us exactly what our Prime Minister has to say as he recognised a Palestinian state. As his moral duty, here's what the Prime Minister had to say.
So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the state of Palestine. We recognised the State of Israel more than 75 years ago as a homeland for the Jewish people. Today, we join over 150 countries who recognise a Palestinian state also. A pledge to the Palestinian and Israeli people that there can be a better future. I know the strength of feeling that this conflict provokes. We have seen it on our streets, in our schools, in conversations we've had with friends and family. It has created division. Some have used it to stoke hatred and fear, but that solves nothing. Not only must we reject hate, we must redouble our efforts to combat hatred in all its forms. We must channel our efforts, united together in hope, behind the peaceful future that we want to see. The release of the hostages, an end to the violence, an end to the suffering, and a shift back towards a two-state solution as the best hope for peace and security for all sides.
OK, Philip Ingram, quick response to that.
Well, it was his typical wooden type response. You know, he wasn't delivering it passionately. He's reading it. You know, he's not a passionate prime minister. He's not a passionate leader. It's a shame that he has created greater instability in the world and created greater risks for the British people.
Philip Ingram, thank you very much. That's former senior military intelligence officer Philip Ingram there. Thank you very much for joining us. OK, now let's get more reaction from the broadcaster and... Oh, no, we're not. Sorry, we're not going to do that now. Before we move on, we will have a live coverage of Charlie Kirk's funeral in Arizona from 7 p.m. this evening here on GB News, where we are expected to hear from his widow, Erica Kirk, President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. OK, well, thank you so much. Yeah, that's live pictures there. And we're expecting, I believe, 100,000 people in Arizona this evening. We'll be covering that live for you. So it's going to be very emotional. You don't want to miss it. And lots of people will be turning up. OK, well, all that's left for me to say now is thank you so much for your company. Thank you so much for your comments. I appreciate I didn't have time to read as many out as I'd like, but we obviously had the breaking news that the Prime Minister has now recognised a Palestine state. So thank you so much for watching, but don't go too far because it will be the lovely Nana Akua up next. And obviously we will be going and covering Charlie Kirk's memorial and funeral, including what we are expecting to be incredibly emotional speech from his wife Erica and those two little children. Thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely rest of your day. Nana is up after this very short break for the weather. Thank you very much. I'll see you later on. Take care.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, high pressure will be building as we go into the new week, bringing plenty of settled conditions, but it is going to be feeling colder out there with frost overnight. And the area of high pressure is coming in from the west, but it is drawing down northerly winds, so it's still going to be feeling cold out there, especially during the mornings. So through the rest of this evening, then some early evening sunshine across England and Wales. The showers will be easing as we go overnight, just maybe lingering across some coastal areas and especially across Orkney and Shetland. But otherwise, the winds will be easing from the west and we'll see plenty of clear skies, but that will allow temperatures to fall to give a widespread frost to start Monday morning and even some mist and fog patches. So as we start Monday morning, then we still hold on to showers, especially across Orkney and Shetland and western parts of Scotland. Feeling chilly to start the day though, but plenty of blue sky across Northern Ireland, Northern England, Wales and much of the south. There is going to be a few showers just clipping into Sussex and Kent as we go through Monday, but otherwise a much drier and settled picture through Monday despite that chilly feel in the air. cloud will thicken across parts of Scotland from the west, and we still hold on to showers across Orkney and Shetland. Some cloud will just move into eastern England, and a few showers may linger here, but otherwise for the vast majority it's fine, it's dry, it's sunny. Temperatures are going to be below average, but it won't be as breezy out there, so actually in the sunshine it should still feel pleasant, highs of 17 degrees. So as we go through Monday evening then, a bit more cloud around across parts of Scotland, northern England, still holding on to showers across Orkney and Shetland, perhaps just not as cold here overnight to start Tuesday, but otherwise through the week with high pressure it's going to be fine and settled, temperatures just generally recover.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. It is 3 o'clock. You're listening and watching GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, businessman and commentator Jeff Banks, and the leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell. Breaking news in the last hour. Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed the UK has recognised the Palestinian state. Lots of reaction to this very controversial decision on the way. Then, coming up in my niggle.
So, I'm going to have an opinion that very few people will ever tell you, which is I want you to be very cautious putting drugs into your system in the pursuit of changing your body.
Charlie Kirk's funeral is taking place in Arizona today. I'll be bringing you live coverage throughout the afternoon. And in the last hour, as we said, Sir Keir Starmer made an historic announcement.
So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the state of Palestine.
The Prime Minister has confirmed the UK will indeed recognise the Palestinian state. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the UK have recognised the state of Palestine? My poll is up on GB.